Bombers deciding that they wanted to dig their boots in a little bit against this Order lineup.
And just very quickly, as we're wrapping this chat up, it's now Order are coming off the back of their first loss. They had 9 games last for the Gauntlet, only lost 1 of those games. We're going to see how they bounce back from this loss. Rusty, Jake mentioned that they're learning to outscale is probably the best way to take on Bombers. Did they learn anything else from this match?
I mean, other than that, I think they may have learnt through the jungle some differences in how they may want to play the game out. I definitely think that there is a world where Spooks just plays a more aggressive jungler. He has a very deep champion pool, so it's easy to sculpt around that. And like Spawn actually also mentioned, the magic damage and tank combos could also be physical. So I went into that first game, I thought Lee Sin may have been a better jungler of choice. And that may be something we even see in the second game, because they don't change much of their draft, honestly. It's usually one thing.
They could have changed their pick order, right? They took Liss there, they could have taken Urgot. You wouldn't have been double jungle bans, probably would have been double mid lane bans, and you trust Swift as champion pool as well. So I think there's a couple of draft things that you take a look at, but maybe not all that much, mentally away from the game now. They look pretty happy.
Yeah, the biggest thing is that Bombers won the game themselves, right? It wasn't that Order massively lost it. In fact, we saw only positives towards the end from Order.
Yeah, and I want to actually harp on that a little bit, because people are going to replay this VOD back and call me Order Spawn a lot. But Bombers played that first 15 minutes, as well as any coach in this league would ask.
Absolutely.
If I was a coach of the Bombers right now, I would just be bringing them back to that first 15 minutes. Mimic got a 1v1 outplay kill. Bottom lane turret dive was great. I think in total, FBI took 8 turret platings. There is very little to pick on in that early game if you are the Bombers coach, and I think that's a fantastic position to be in for game 1 of a best of 5.
I think Bombers showing why they were sitting in the grand final for 2 weeks now, and Order showing why they got there to be able to face off against them. All right, we are about to head into match number 2, but before we do, our first OPL award for the night, Rookie of the Split. And so we had some newbies.
Dramatic role.
We had some, they're not necessarily newbies, they're kind of like semi-oldies who have played a little bit and gone away and come back. Dream. And then we've also had a gun crab who played 2 games.
The ineligible rookies that are still rookies.
But the winner, Rookie of the Split, is...
Me.
Bokan! I was looking for the drum roll again. It was like,
roll.
I padded so long. Bokan!
I just was pounding my legs for so long. I, for one, am shocked. I'm not really, because I voted for him. He's such a good player, incredibly talented. For a guy that had never played competitive and doesn't speak the same language as the rest of the people on his team, what an absolute superstar. He's probably the best jungler in the league right now. And I think that, for a first-year player, that's a big deal.
Exactly. And he did it almost from week 1. That's the thing. He didn't come in and just get acclimatized. He was just good somehow from the very beginning through all of these adversities that he was able to go up against. So what an incredible player.
The other thing is, champion pool. I love his champion pool.
Good pool.
Eve, Lee Sin, Jarvan, he plays all the cool champions.
He plays
doesn't play crappy stuff like Karthus. He doesn't play crappy things like Urgot. He plays the good champion.
All right, well, congratulations, Bokan, and congratulations to the runner-up, Ayla. We are heading into the McDonald's Champion Select for game number 2. Keep an eye out for that first Elder, Drake, the Baron. You can get your Sivir skin. Let's throw it to the desk.
Thanks very much, Nick Boy. We are ready to get underway for game number 2. But, man, what an opener to the series.
Yeah.
Bryce, it looked like it was going to be a clean closeout, but Order really rose to the challenge and made an absolute banger of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The couch said it, right? It is 2 very different conversations. If you stop that game at 20 minutes versus you stop that game at the end of the actual game, right? And I feel like now, this is coming into Order are the lower seed. They're the challengers in the grand final, and they've interestingly opted for the red side.
Yes,
We've seen them over the
blue.
course of the gauntlet. They were gifted a lot of blue side games, and they did look comfortable, but they opted in for blue side almost every single time. So they're flipping this one up, and I think this does speak to fairly different drafts. I feel like Order no longer has to blind pick for Tally and give Mimic the cannon counter pick and that sort of stuff. Bombers, they're going to find it a little bit harder to blind pick the Tahm Kench, blind pick the Ryze, just by nature of how the draft plays out differently on blue side versus red side. And also, interestingly, that is a Xayah ban. They've actually opted in.
They did opt to ban it away, and also they ban the Ryze that Ryoma piloted last time on the blue side. You see Silas, of course, making the Swippy swap as Order ban it away on red.
Yep.
Wouldn't be too surprised to see the Thresh or the Alistair come out again on the Order side.
I think it's going to be the Thresh. That would be my prediction. I feel like both would make sense. Silas, you expect to be banned away on red side no matter who is on that side. And the Ryze, just a proactive, power pick, can be flexed in multiple roles. Kind of just annoying to deal with, so it makes sense the Bombers ban them away from themselves.
All right, a Galio's picked up here by Bombers quickly. Now, we've seen this in the support role much, much more often lately.
Yes,
so we'll
we
see
have.
what the answer is.
But it's also not a Bombers pick. For the entirety of the OPL season until the last couple of weeks, Rogue just didn't play the champion. They were much happier playing things like the Braum, like the Tahm Kench into the Galio matchups rather than taking the Galio for themselves. So yes, it can be flexed, but if it does go into the support position, this is something that Rogue is fairly untested territory for him.
Yeah, and for the Order side, it couldn't be less true there as they go for the Enchanter support for Jake. Morgana locked in and Kai'Sa to pair it out. It's going to be all purple down in that bottom lane.
Feels pretty good. Both of them got shields, and this is another one of those games where maybe he doesn't have a Scion building him a Redemption and a Locket, but he's going to have a lot of protection from his support.
I want to see Tally on something that can do a little bit more damage, to be honest.
Look, he's red side. Last time we saw them on red side, I believe it was the last pick, Kale. And that game went very, very one-sided. See if it does slip through the second phase bans or if Bombers do respect it.
All right, here's the J4 Galio combo. Bombers definitely going to be looking for a little bit of a 1-2 punch, and they can still draft for some side lane play, but I wonder if maybe they want to opt into a team fighting composition.
Yeah, I mean, like the Cats talked about it. The early game was incredibly good. If they can get into mid-games with those leads, instead of having to play, like, pick apart the map and play that sort of slower style, rely on Baron to close out the game, that sort of stuff, if you can just hard force, that's a blind Syndra. If you can hard force with a Galio Jarvan, then you're completely okay. If you get the leads, you blow up in the team fight, the game snowballs very quickly, and that could just be the play here from Bombers.
Well, Order have some options, a lot of time to be taken as they decide what their last pickup will be here. I wonder if it's going to be a quick Spooks pickup. Remember, he had 2 jungle bans thrown at him in the second phase last time around.
Yeah. It could be an answer for Swiffer. He doesn't want to lose double picks, or it could just be the Urgot lock-in. Yes, it can be flexed between top and jungle, but expect this one probably to default towards the jungle position. And
yeah, both have played it in the gauntlet, though.
Yep.
So there is a lot of chances here. Let's see what Order ends up electing to ban. There are some 80 carries on the table.
I will say, though, like Urgot into Jarvan, Spooks look very comfortable. Like, Jarvan EQs in, and then Urgot just one-hits him. Jarvan's also that champion that goes into a team fight, and his play pattern is EQ, ulti. I don't care if I die because, like, I get the Galio in and I'm the front line for the team fight. Urgot's like, yeah, man, I just get to eat the tankiest member of your team and then flash onto your backline. 100% give me that. The execute is so useful, so I feel like if I was to make a prediction, Urgot probably in the hands of Spooks, and they will just last pick for Tally in the top matchup.
And they ban out a couple of 80 carries. It's the Vayne, the Callista, a couple of interesting choices there on the Order side to ban up against FBI.
Yeah.
And, it's been all about the mid lane bans on the Bomber side, so definitely focusing on Swiffer. And he's got a few pocket picks. I mean, that Aurelion Soul is still an option.
Yeah, it certainly is. I feel like it could be a rough time into the Syndra, though. LeBlanc would be the expected ban. They removed the list that can weather the storm. They removed the LeBlanc that can gank the Syndra and kind of snowball out of control, the more volatile option. And Ryze, Zoe obviously already banned away the Silas from Order, so Swiffer's definitely going to have to dig deep in this matchup here.
Tally talking a bit to his coach, Choo-Choo's, about what they're going to be picking for him up in the top side. So far been hovering on this Vladimir as the timer ticks down.
Well, I think this is actually very smart.
As
they change their mind. Because I was going to say Vladimir, you can flex it between the two, then they don't really know where it's going, and Mimic has to pick for that one. But the Orianna, this is just one of those old school matchups, kind of a 55-45, depending on which player you talk to. And look, Swiffer, Ryoma, these guys have played this exact matchup in so many gauntlet games, in so many semi-finals, like over the course of time. This is tried and true territory for both these players.
No, they absolutely have the experience. Also, they still have the flexibility. We don't know where that Urgot is going until the final pickup.
Yeah.
Bombers in the last second. They'll actually end up locking in the Poppy.
Okay.
So that is, I believe that should be the Mimic choice. I mean,
Yes.
you could Swippy swap it around and give it to Balkan, but I think that's where it's going.
Out of all of the tanks, Mimic likes Poppy the most. Blind pickable, matchups aren't that bad, but you don't see him on the likes of the Maokai, the Scion. You see him on the Poppy more often than not, and that is the Kog'Maw
We're
that
back.
we saw get banned away in game number 1, and here he rears his Voidy head. The FBI is going to have a game to play.
Oh, yes, indeed. So we'll have to keep an eye on that bot lane once again to see how this one all shakes out. We'll have a big old mobile cannon on the Bombers side, some protection from the Galio. No Tahm Kench, though, to swallow him up, so there is a chance to isolate him from the pack. Order, last couple seconds ticking down to decide what they will. Switch up, and the GP comes through.
Okay.
That'll be the top lane pickup for Tally, and this is Order throwing the gauntlet down at Bombers.
Yeah, this is 2 drafts in a row with that one greedy champion, you know. It's the GP that wants to scale up. It was the Karthus in game number 1, and fine matchup to just sit here. He gets to Q Mimic's head the entirety of the laning phase, but these are 2 very interesting compositions. You take a look at the Bombers, and compared to what they put in game number 1, this is the hard go forward, and you're kind of leaving FBI and the Kog'Maw like alone in the backside.
They're kind of hoping they can melt through the front line of Order, and,
Yeah.
and they won't have to worry about the backline dive. My concern for Order, though, is I look at that lineup, and that feels a bit squishy to me.
Potentially, but if you look at how the champions interact, it's like Bombers, yes, they want to go forward, they want to steamroll. You have to do that over an Orianna ball, you get Shockwave, that hurts. You have to do that over the Gangplank barrels, over the Cannon Barrage, like, those things are very worrisome, so Order, yes, once again, I feel like have the more passive sort of style here, but it certainly works into what Bombers have put together. Rusty kind of raised questions in, do you want to give a team like the Bombers that sort of space, that sort of freedom? It's obviously a choice, and Order are making that active decision, and they've done it. They've done it 2 games in a row. By no means does their comp like not play well into it, but it is an interesting choice nonetheless.
Oh, absolutely true. Well, it looks like we're getting ready to get underway, and so far had a couple of interesting drafts, but this game number 2, Order really unfazed by the loss last time. It could have been a very big blowout, but instead they kept it close and forced Bombers to fight for every inch of that Nexus. Joining us to talk about Order, their run, and their chances still here in the finals, it is Choo Choo's once again. Welcome back.
Hello, I'm back.
It seems like we're getting quite a bit of you this the last couple weeks. It's been good, man. Tell me, though, what was your biggest takeaway from game number 1?
These guys are playing Lane Kingdom. We kind of knew that going into this series. Like Bombers, especially with their language barrier, they heavily rely on like their mechanical ability to shut down their opposition. I think we made a mistake going for the Rakan into Tahm Kench, like leaving. We knew that they were looking at something like the Ashe or the Kog'Maw or the Varus. So I think we did get caught up too much in drafting, like, hey, let's draft a cohesive composition, easy execution.
Things we've played,
yeah, the things we've played, the people know what we're going to play, but we're winning on it. And like, we were winning on it for 3 other series. Bombers are just that one team that can punish us.
Yeah, okay, that's fairly interesting. And you talk about those 3 other series. I want to ask you, like, does this feel any different, right? Like, we're now in the grand final. The stakes are a little bit higher. You're playing for that MSI spot, but does the team's mentality change going into this game as opposed to the Gauntlet?
Yeah, of course. We didn't have a lot of time to prep for the next opposition throughout the Gauntlet.
Yeah.
So I really just I stayed up for like all night, and I would just like research and try and learn like a team's weakness. We had like an entire week for this team.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of time to overthink, overcomplicate things, and yeah, I think we came in very prepared for these guys.
I was going to ask, did it actually feel a little bit weird going back to like a full week's worth of prep compared to just kind of flying by the seat of your pants there, Choo Choos?
For sure. Like, we had a routine of going to the same cafe at the same time, doing the same pre-game ritual, like, over and over and over. And, like, we're still in the same room now, like, in the Riot Games office. So, like, everything is, like, we are very much affiliated to, like, the environment that we are in regards to pre-game rituals. And that's probably an advantage we have over Bombers.
Yeah.
But they've come out exploding. Like, they've come out prepared. So it should be a good series.
Yeah, like you guys have the stage practice, that sort of thing. I want to ask about that sort of pre-game ritual. Like, not specifically what they are, but what does that do for your team? Like, do you think they're very important in kind of standardizing the way you kind of approach a competitive game?
Yeah, like, pre-game rituals, my team is kind of superstitious.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
We're going to have to switch it up right now. And, well, maybe the superstition paying off there. However, it's both supports already gone down as FBI is going to be having to walk back under tower. But
yeah, so, like...
Superstitious.
Yeah. We are kind of a little
this mean?
superstitious. So, like, Sam was
element?
like, I got to do this run. And then I offered him, like, a piece of my fruit. And he's like, no, that's not in my pre-game ritual.
Yeah,
and
okay.
I'm just like, okay, this team's pretty... like, into it.
Yep.
So we've done what we've done in the past, and like, we're confident. We're just going to do our best.
Well, fair enough. A little insight into how the team's prepping on for the day. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Choo Choos. Best of luck.
No worries. Thank you.
All right, so we've had First Blood. Supports traded back and forth. It was Ignites that made all the difference there between Rogue and Jake.
He gets taken down, and what we've learned so far is that Morgana certainly has kill threat onto Galio, and that Fruit is 100% the enemy.
Turns out.
You don't want to eat that pre-game, apparently. But no, it was a multi-step process. We saw during the interview, it's the little things in the bottom lane. It's the aftershock that got procced by the first binding that Jake landed, and then they go for the second play. Spooks has that Urgot kind of jungle. Here's the one button, once again. Like, his early game is flash and the dash, and that's kind of all you've got there. And he uses it, gets a kill, comes off the back end, and feeling pretty good.
But look what's happened on the opposite side. Balkan's managed to be able to double his farm in the time, and this is what the Couch was talking about at the start of the day. He is such a power farmer, and he also seems to appear out of nowhere all the time. Balkan just gets things done that other junglers simply cannot do.
Yeah, because Spooks hard commits to the play, doesn't get a Scuttle Crab, and Balkan took his... Oh, what's that? Oh, they actually didn't see each other.
Oh,
like, ships
dear.
in the night, just go kind of zooming past.
Spooks is losing a lot of his jungle, though.
There is no vision. Spooks hasn't actually showed on the Wraith ward. Is now going to face check his golems. Balkan will not have the EQ, but does know that the Urgot is there. But This CS lead is looking like a little bit of a roughie here. Tally is a gangplank, so he's going to walk over and do almost nothing completely. He looks at him and is like, yeah, that's not happening. And Balkan still has camps up on his side of the map. Exactly as you were mentioning, like Spooks used everything on the bot play. And the fact of the matter is that he fell so incredibly low, he had to reset. So Balkan gets his race. He gets his golems on the top side of the map, and is now going to get an Urgot as well.
Yeah, there's the 2 for play right now, and they get the wall bang. Spooks getting the flip over.
Oh.
It doesn't matter. Tally just can't do a damn thing to help out, and Spooks has gone down again.
And the 1-2 punch of the Korean top side of the map of the Bombers has been so effective over the course of the OPL split, and you see why here. Once again, Spooks face checks a bush. It's the flash from Mimic to secure the kill, and yes, this is a comfortable champion. We've seen Spooks on the Urgot over the course of the gauntlet, but this is not a comfortable situation. Jarvan double CS at 5 minutes into the game. Still got his camps available. He's sitting pretty. Hasn't even reset yet. He's still got Machete.
Yeah, 400 gold difference already between the two. Spooks did get the kill down bottom side, so that certainly helps him in terms of being able to equalize on it. We'll check back in with this bottom lane as well, because that's always where we want to be paying attention in this matchup. The old Order bottom lane versus the new Order bottom lane. In the game 1, it was a different lineup, it was a different matchup, and they certainly kept the pressure on with a lot of help from Balkan, but things changed a bit here.
Certainly the case, and I also want to highlight the mid matchup. Ryoma forced a base pretty early from Swiffer, but then he played the mind game. It was like, yes, no, actually, I'm not going to reset. I'm gonna greed out for the wave. Binding does land. Does Spooks go?
He's not going to.
No, he doesn't.
Doesn't take the blast cone over, so they don't know that he's in the area.
But Swiffer stayed back on the map, right, for that extra wave to be able to kind of cheat the tempo. And then unfortunately for him, they're starting his recall on a ward, so Balkan cancels his base. So we're already very early on into this game. This is a reset for both of the mid laners. They've gone in for a double heal matchup, so it's not the most exciting in terms of kill threat.
Ooh, that binding just over the wall. FBI could have been in some serious trouble had he been caught on it. And being able to two-step out on a cog is not the easiest thing in the world. There's a reason that legendary ADC players were known for their ability to get out of sticky situations on that champ.
I also want to talk about his rune choice as well, because you heard Choo-Choo's in the interview be like, yes, these guys are lane kingdoming. And like, that's our read. These guys win lane because of like the language barrier, because it's the way they like to play the game, and then snowball. You have a few options on the Kog'Maw, right? Like, he's gone for the Hail of Blaze as opposed to something like the Lethal Tempo, where late game you have Lethal Tempo, you break the attack speed cap like monstrously, and you're just vomiting out damage. He goes for the early game, right? Like, you get a single auto attack, and he gets to do this. You pop the W, you get multiple off the back end in quick succession with that range advantage, and he's looking to play Lane Kingdom Kog'Maw. That's a knockoff.
Rogue is comboing through. There's the Black Shield tagging into the J4, and Jake is a dead man. The heal does come up, and there's the Ignite. FBI with the final tennis ball to the back of the head.
And 6 minutes and 50 seconds, Balkan flash ulti level 6 to the Urgot's level 4. Gets the play already, punishes the bottom lane. Double summoners burnt from Dream Heal and Flash in a matchup. Kai'Sa is one of the most blindable champions on the bottom side of the map, but Jake has fallen down twice, unfortunately, and this is rough territory for Order in the early game.
Flip side of the Enchanter supports can be a bit squishy. Bomber's already starting to build up those gold advantages. Not as much as they had last time, but that was a really early start to the game. Still, though, a 2,000 just about gold advantage as we don't even get to the 8-minute mark. Balkan is everywhere on this map as well, really setting up the Bombers' early game.
He certainly is. And you mentioned the Enchanters, right? They, more often than not, you pick them into tanks and you do like the air quotes, quote-unquote, win lane. Because they get to push, they have the range advantage, they kind of get to poke you out. But as soon as there's kills traded,
Speaking of kill trades,
like Rogue gets a kill back, Jake dies twice. Once you fall behind, you don't have the luxury of being able to play up enough to use your poke to constantly leverage those sort of things. So
Tally's zoned out of his own farm.
Yeah, as you mentioned, he's fallen behind, and on the top side, Mimic did have the TP back, so he's got a Sheen, he's gone for the base, has the boots as well. Tally's just going to cop it right now and won't lose the most amount of CS, but
still feels bad, man.
A chunk.
Delaying what he can on the Gangplank. Still, that Sheen, that's just the start here. Gangplank will be nasty in the late game, but remember last time it was a massive gold lead at 25 minutes in favor of Bombers, so not keen to give it to him. Dark Binding doesn't connect this time.
I mean, we've said the word superstitious, and this is superstitiously following the same game plan as we saw in game number 1. It's the early game lead for Bombers, and the team fights certainly could be the case for Order.
FBI picks up the level 2 boots already at Berserker's Greaves for a lot of those extra damage shots, and
Yeah.
he's got the living artillery as well now.
Because it's multi-threat, right? It's the move speed to be able to play around and dodge the Morgana bindings. Like, they are a skill shot bottom lane where the Kai'Sa throws out the W, the Morgana throws out the Q, but then also with the Halo Blade, you kind of just want the attack speed, you want that movability to be able to play with your range advantage, so I like to pick up here for FBI.
Yeah, instead of a giant, cannon you have to wheel around, it's a little bit more of a pea shooter that can just walk all over the place and constantly pelt your health bar down. Mimic up top does have a health bar and a level advantage onto Tally. Ooh, Swiffer walking away.
Volkan knew where the pinks were, and this is something that Bombers actually do incredibly well. He sees the one top side that he's about to clear right now, but they kind of just knew based on where Swiffer had walked with his pink ward, and then you don't see it in the inventory. It's these little things that they know where the vision is, and he's sitting in that banana bush waiting. They look for the stun onto Swiffer, it does not land, so Volkan just shows and they clear out the vision anyway, but that was a premeditated gank, and you can see the little things that this sort of team does that bolsters up their strong laning phase. They have the vision to be able to play Lane Kingdom, to be able to hit the turret at 10 minutes into the game and play like this. And
take even more plates off.
Those
Looks like
things
they're
really
getting
do
close
add
to
up.
another. Well, you can see those spooks is here. There's the binding. However, they've already sent the Galio back. FBI taking a lot of damage, and they're going to get some help from downtown. Cannon Barrage, though, is walked through by FBI, and Rogue Dream is still sticking on top of him. But he takes almost as much damage as he dishes.
And they blow everything. Urgot ulti, Gangplank ulti. The binding was very nicely buffered out of Rogue there, and they just can't get onto the Cogmore. He's standing behind the biggest Galio in the world, and Ryoma may just be looking for more of Swiffer here. Doesn't have ulti.
He's playing a dangerous game, and you just see Bombers time and again. Doesn't matter which lane they're in. Under towers, and Balkan finds Dream out in the middle of nowhere.
Just cleans him up. Very easy. Has the Warrior, 2 kills to boot. And
suspiciously like last game, you are absolutely correct, Bryce.
Jake is somewhat playing with fire here, but Morgana has the luxury of a Black Shield, so the stun from Ryoma isn't really the biggest of threats, and we're just going to see this
greedy
one.
back.
That's a recall. His team's in the river. It's not the worst thing in the world. You're sitting there like, yeah, like we have priority. My boys are up here. They can back me up, but if he was just standing in the bush, then Balkan would not have been able to see him, and unfortunately...
attracting all the attention, though, man. All those pop star lights and everything. Of course they were going to jump on him. It's Balkan.
It's a bright river down there.
Yeah. Lit it up. So, 4-1 in favor of Bombers here in game number 2 of the Grand Finals. Got themselves a 3,000 gold advantage, and, they're pretty much winning every lane.
Yep.
However, Order, they have shown an incredible ability to come back, stay strong, stay resolute, but they haven't faced a team like Bombers in the Gauntlet.
Certainly the case, and Rogue actually tracks out of base towards top side. And if we can pan the camera up to the top dot bush, just to the left, Mr. Observer, he goes up there and he places a ward into the river to defend the weak side of the map. This, to me, you look at the map setup and Balkan just looks for a reset. They want to make a play onto the bottom lane. There's 2 turrets left on the turret. Mimic's actually just literally looking for a solo kill. Tally.
Tally, here's the Poppycopter up, flashes, and Spooks actually
what?
gets the denial. Shotguns, though, that means the flash from Mimic. Let's see if he can stay strong with a steadfast presence. Still walking away. Spooks misses the ultimate. And now Poppy's on the run.
And the Orianna can't walk because Ryoma has priority. I had absolutely no idea that is how the interaction works between Urgot E and the Poppycopter. But
he just completely eats it.
Spooks just straight up buffers it. Unfortunately, cannot land the ulti to secure the kill. And
look what happens down bot in the meantime. Bombers can finish off this tower. This is before turret plates have fallen.
Yeah.
They get everything. So once again, the Bombers bot lane decimating that of Order.
And the problem with this was that it was against the flow of the game. Order were looking for a top side of the map. They were looking for the play up there. And Mimic wins at 1v2 and gets out with his life. That's the reason why FBI on the bottom side gets to punish. Like, they didn't even send members down there, and he just gets to free hit the turret because Order look for the play, it doesn't work, and they have all that freedom. It's things working against the flow of the game that punish you incredibly hard in League of Legends. And now we're 13 minutes in. The gold lead is 4,000. The Rift Herald is picked up. They've already got a drag, and this is, once again, another one of those perfect early games from the Bombers, and they're looking good.
It is. If it's not as big as the last time's gold lead, well, they haven't had as many kills, they haven't had as many opportunities, but they're still taking everything that's been thrown their way, and Order just falling further and further behind in this one. Next Dragon will be in prime position for them to take as well. They do have to sweep some wards out of that river, and it is another Ocean Drake, so less of the explosive team fight worthy ones.
Yeah. Right, looks at game number 1 and is like, maybe you don't need an Infernal and Double Mountain.
Let's balance things a little bit.
They did get it very early. Balkan, I feel like very early on in the split, was the kind of guy that was soloing out objectives a ton. And he's actually just literally walking up to top turret. May just pop the Rift Herald here and look to break this one. 13 minutes and 40 seconds.
They may not need it at this
They
point.
have 15 seconds before plating wears off, and they're going to look to take as many as they can.
All right, well, that's going to be 2 plates already picked up. Looking for a third right now is Dream and Jake just trying desperately to stop them, but they won't be able to do it. Clear away. Dark Binding does land onto the Jarvan, but he flags and drags. Doesn't matter if you're rooted in that case. Here comes
Dream.
Spooks and Jake looking for FBI. The damage onto the Kog'Maw, but he's going to be flashing away. Jake going golden for just
Spooks
a
is
second
here.
as the Cannon Barrage comes through looking
Binding.
for Rogue.
Oh.
Spooks is there. Balkan tags over, and he gets the kill off onto Jake. Might pay for it with his life. Dream trying to walk away, but the Hero's Entrance comes through, and they will take down Spooks. Bombers get everything.
And in a straight 3v3, they get the outplay. Rift Herald is still here to boot, and Balkan may just pop that one top. He has all the options in the world. He can walk towards mid lane. Swiffer is already low HP, low mana, walking off the turret, and Bombers, they're just completely taking everything. He is going to pop that one. We'll ram that into the mid lane turret, and this is the map completely broken open.
Yeah, they got one tower looking to push on even more, and Bombers Lane Kingdom is absolutely the case here.
Yep.
And it is a high tax to pay for the Order players. The Poppycopter wind up. Not going to need it as Tally backs off.
Yep.
This is
a
tough for
refunded
Order.
cooldown.
This is very tough for Order at the moment.
And we're going to see this one again. EQ out of the binding is nice there from Balkan, but Dream just sees an opportunity, and Jake is like, yes, like we have to go. GP ulti comes down very quick, but the flash from FBI gets him out of the play, and Rogue still has stopwatch, so effectively baiting Dream further and further into the play to be able to turn this one around, and the re-engage is there. FBI is no longer the target, so he gets to free hit. Now he's a QSS Bork Kog'Maw. At 15 minutes, he's so safe and dishes out so much damage. This is absolutely online for the Bombers.
Yeah, you had to queue up some MC Hammer because they can't touch him, absolutely. FBI looking so good in this game. 15.5 minutes on the clock, 6-1. The gold lead once more spiraling out of control. It's upwards of 6,000 now if you are Bombers, and they have just absolutely run roughshod over all the lanes of Order.
Yeah, and once again, it's towards the bottom side of the map. Look at the gold lead in the hands of FBI. That is 3,000. He has an entire Jake in his back pocket. Jake's entire wallet is like the extra bonus on top of FBI. That is, that's a roughie. That's
really
a roughie
is.
and a half.
All right, so the second Dragon falls. Balkan solos it out once again, as you were talking about. He's definitely one of those junglers that's able to do it. The next one that'll be spawning is an Air. So maybe not the ones Bombers are hoping for, but they still have the opportunity. Mimic now looking to chase in on to Tally. The steadfast
Spooks
presence
is here
there.
again.
Spooks is looking to wrap around the side. This is a chance for Order to get something, but Tally's bleeding out. Poppycopter
Misses.
That's going to be the miss on the presence here, but he tags forward looking for damage, and he flips him in and chews him back up. Finally, Spooks plays and gets that kill.
Eventually, they're able to take him down. Doesn't have the flash to get himself to safety, so as soon as Poppycopter goes wide, that's a very easy cleanup here.
Can you say Poppycopter?
Yeah, Poppycopter.
Yeah.
It's a helicopter, but it's a poppy.
No, I know. Can you say Poppycopter? It's hard, isn't
A
it?
Poppycopter?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It just sounded funny.
Isn't it like a little lollipop, or it's the reindeer
Well, it's
skin, so
right
he's
now.
got
It's like a giant bell on a stick, basically.
Oh, so I was thinking it was a candy cane.
Nah, no, that's Lollipoppy.
Yeah.
Remember the old flash
that's
for that?
That's a lollipop, not a candy cane. Candy cane are the Christmas thing.
It's all sugar sticks, man.
Yeah, they're delicious.
They are delicious, but not if it's
Lovely.
Poppy throwing it at you.
But it's
I think it's
Easter, though,
terrifying.
so no candy canes to be seen. Just a Wraith camp that's being fought over as Spooks is going to smite that one away.
Yeah, Order just trying to fight for any smidgen of control they can of their own jungle. Swiffer going to get
Balkan's
jumped on
going.
by Balkan, and they've got the combo in. Oh, he's bleeding down from red buff. However, look at that damage. Shockwave does pull Balkan back in, and that's a shutdown that Swiffer needed. Gold in his pocket. They will pay for it with the red buff, though.
Yeah, maybe seeing the remnants of game number one, the slight overextension, looking to get onto Swiffer. He does have the flash. Shockwave comes through, and that's a shutdown. That's an extra 300 gold on top of the kill that goes into Order's back pocket, and Bombers, cheeky little death here and there, can run amok.
And one thing we do have to keep in mind, though, is Order. They've definitely got some pretty scary scaling of their own. You look at the Orianna, you look at the GP. You know, they will get stronger over time.
Eventually, and it is one of those cases, right, where this gold lead is 6,000. Like, approaching that 20-minute mark, Bombers have put themselves in one of those situations again, where, like, this could just be a free Baron. They set up, they have all the control in the world. Mimic has looked completely fine in the side lane. As the matchup progresses, Tally will do better and better. And he did just die a little bit ago, so it will kind of get worse and worse. But he's got a Jarvan, right? Like, Jarvan has the time to be able to bolster his lane, to push it out and then walk towards the Baron and look to set up these plays. This is something that Bombers can do. Spooks is down here, though. He's spotted by a ward.
So is Balkan. He's in the area. He's going to be able to clear away the rest of his Krug camp, and Tally won't be playing too unsafe, but it might be in for a 2v2.
Certainly could be the case. You look at the matchups and you kind of see a Galio and think maybe they could cheat the tempo, but no entrance is available here for Rogue. Half on the cooldown is there, and Volcan doesn't show.
This is the thing. Bombers have pushed quite a lot here, and now their momentum is arrested a little bit by the fact that they're just not able to push deeper into territory before the Baron is going to become available. So there's a little bit of a slowdown, and it'll be interesting to see how Order can utilize that time.
Swiffer is the mid laner in one of those uncomfortable situations where you're on red side of the map and you have to catch top wave. So the Urgot just eats the blue buff, and that doesn't feel good for anyone, realistically. Ryoma gets his hands on his own and is able to just kind of continue pushing this in. Bombers have lulled the game out because of the Baron spawn. It's been about 3 minutes since the last fight, and they've just been kind of waiting for the objective. They want to make a play where they get to set up the vision, they can force Order into a choke point, and then they can look for the engage. Like, they have the Jarvan, they have the Galio. They've been looking for these things time and time again, and the time is creeping up where those opportunities are going to arise.
Scout of the week there on the Spooks. Man, they just keep getting the combos on anybody. Tanking any CC at all is going to get heavily punished by FBI on this build. That Dogma just firing the tennis balls.
Yeah, he's gone for the Pugmore.
Yeah.
He's gone for the Chroma
There's
as well.
There's several different dog varieties, it turns out.
Yeah, what's this one?
That one is a Beagle.
Is it?
I believe so. That's a Bailey Kog'Maw.
I
could be wrong about that, but it looks like a
you're
Beagle
wrong,
to me.
but I don't know enough to
Maybe
call
it's
you
a
out.
Terrier.
That's a stun.
That's a lot of damage, and Jake gets blown up. Balkan gets the kill credit, but that was all Ryoma, and that means it's mid-tower.
Yeah.
Man, one mistake. That's all it takes.
As soon as you fall behind on the Enchanter, that is literally it. He does not spell shield the stun, and he just insta-drops. Doesn't have access to the stopwatch anymore. He's going for a squishy build for the Kai'Sa, has the Ardent, so no HP to boot. 0-4 on the Morgana is having an incredibly rough game, and that's a very easy pick. That's another turret in the hands of Bombers, and this gold lead is just extending further and further.
Yeah, you got to wonder if maybe it wouldn't be better to put Jake back on a tank support. I know he loves these enchanters, and the Rakan has certainly been valuable when they've been able to get their hands on the Xayah, but you got to think if this game continues the way that it looks right now, game number 3, we might have to see some different drafting out of Order.
I mean, potentially, but it's come to, like, it's not down to the draft in my eyes. Like, the matchup was good. They killed Rogue at level 2 with the Morgana, right? Like, it's a setup from the draft where they have that advantage and they utilize it very early, and unfortunately, like, it costs Spooks dearly because he falls too low and loses his entire jungle. I don't think it's down to the fact that Jake needs to be put back on the Alistar, back on the Galio, stuff like that, but
3-man
this is
gank
an
up top
ambitious
side.
play.
Ryoma is going to see the ball and just watch it shockwave nothing.
The sound effect for the ball really told the whole story there.
And they even landed.
Where it just kind of, like, sadly goes, wow, over the wall, and Order are like, okay, time's up, that's it, the Dragon's going to go down, and they just back away.
Yeah.
Ryoma's playing a
Dangerous
1v3
game.
right
What?
here.
Flash? Oh! Wow. Outplayed.
Did they have the slow? They landed the Galio.
And
though.
Tally is going to be a dead man right now. Trying to walk away, trying to walk back into Mimic, but the flag, the drag, the tag, and goodbye.
Yeah, across all portions of the map right now. Tally goes down. He does have to flash and TP, and is a gangplank with his ulti up. So if Bombers look to force around the Baron, in 30 seconds, he will be a useful champion once again. But unfortunately for Order, it's no Urgot ulti. It's no Shockwave from Swiffer. Those tools are down, and they don't have a lot of ability to contest right now. Spooks is potentially looking for a flank onto the mid lane, but
Bot Tower's already
actually,
taken. Spooks is looking for Ryoma once again. Last time they both
Sees
burned
him.
flash to get it. Trying to get into him, and he does get that smite off, but he's scattered back and away. Redemption comes through, and he's actually getting outplayed on the Unleashed power on top Ryoma. That's a lot of damage. Flashing in his Rogue to save the day.
and he just barely leaves off the back end.
But they caught
Binding
FBI.
is with QSS.
And Jay comes forward again. They look for the damage. Dream is there looking for FBI, trying to get the kill, but he's getting output on the damage. Flashing forward. Big shutdown for Dream, but he will pay for it with his life. That's a double kill given over to Ryoma.
Yeah, but is it enough? The pick onto FBI. Balkan once more, and Mimic's on the flank. Swiffer has
Flashes.
flash.
Wallbang back into it, onto the red pit. Shockwave this time lands onto 2, but that's the last of his mana bar.
Gets
and
him.
Balkan dunks on top of him. That will be the end of Swiffer.
And a huge force gets them the shutdown. Dream gets a nice bunch of gold, but FBI being the only member dead. Bombers, they can look at the Baron. They don't have a pink ward in the pit right now, but Tally's the only one here for about 20 seconds.
Yeah, they're a little bit low, but it doesn't really matter too much right now. Tally has no ultimate. As you said, trying to challenge it would be difficult. Spooks not even going to make a run for it. This is the back away, though. Bombers don't have enough left in the tank to take it this early.
FBI is realistically their main source of consistent damage. Seems you're just going to chew through our mana throwing balls at the Barons, so They do take the safer route and back away. They just got a whole bunch of kills, so they had a bunch of gold to spend. 9,000 gold now is the lead, and like this game has progressed fairly quickly. And I feel like in the context of the last 2 games, you're looking at this like, yeah, this lead sort of makes sense. But you take a broader scope, a 9,000 gold lead at 23 minutes into the game is disgusting.
It is pretty massive.
That
Bombers
is huge.
have absolutely rolled it up. And now, the only thing could be worse here for Order is if the Dragons had gone the way of game 1. But instead, still, it looks pretty impressive. You especially look at those carry numbers right now, and there's a lot in the pocket of FBI that Dream does not have.
Tally and Swiffer are realistically the 2 members on Order that are like keeping up, that have relative parity. Swift is 1k gold down, and Tally isn't a klepto GP, has gone for the grass because of a difficult matchup and hasn't graded out so far, so you don't have that extra buffer of free gold that a GP normally could have, but the rest of the map is significantly far behind. Volkan has snowballed out this jungle lead very impressively, honestly, is 6-1, gave that singular shutdown over, as did FBI, so there are numbers they're giving back, but the gold leads in their back pocket are still absolutely monstrous, and this Baron, it's not a double mountain, but it does get one-shot by the Kog'Maw.
It's so impressive to see how Bombers have been able to really handle this Order lineup, because you just look at the Gauntlet. I mean, a week ago, we wouldn't have expected Order to be here, but they just showed a masterclass in not only being able to fight from behind, but also to be able to just, like, play fast League of Legends. Play standard, but very fast League of Legends, and Bombers have just taken it to them. This time around, they have, you know, more of a fighting composition rather than drag it around, as Jake is forced out, dunked on by Balkan. We have seen this movie before, and that will be the go button to start the Baron off.
And unfortunately, that's the life of a support when you are this far behind. Somebody has to face check in.
Here's Spooks. They've
Jake
got the
is
Cannon
going
Barrage.
for it. Shockwave.
Balkan forced into the Guardian Angel right now, and that's going to be the turn from Bombers. They're actually going to back off. Baron's still aggroed. It's going to be Balkan flagged and dragged away, but Mimic is going to get the knockaway of Spooks. They'll keep the Baron aggroed.
2K,
as he flashes back into it, he should be able to take this one down. But they're a little low on those health bars. How well can Order actually take this fight to follow through? Looking for Rogue. The damage is onto him, and he will sacrifice himself to the Ear God.
And they're just looking for the shutdowns. Balkan is going to channel his recall. He cancels. Dream face checking.
And
Mimic's now
the
here.
damage onto him. That electrocutes pretty hefty here as he gets a bit of a shield trying to run it out. But
Mimic
and Balkan at his back.
Oh,
and he just drops the swag flag.
Barrel isn't going to connect on the back end. No slow for Spooks to be able to play with. Syndra is still here looking for Tally.
Power unleashed here that Mimic and Balkan look to rejoin Ryoma, but they do catch him out, and that's a turnabout fair play looking for Spooks here. Still damage on, Steadfast pressing shotgun knees. Jakes is back in this fight already. Balkan looks to go down here, and they will be able to take down Mimic as well, but not before Swiffer falls. What an absolute carnage around the Baron pit.
Yeah, the never-ending Baron fight. Ought to clean up a bunch of the buffs. So now Mimic doesn't have the Baron buff in the side lane, and Balkan loses his as well. The rest of the map does have it available, so they do have FBIs, they do have Ryomas, they hold on to some. Order were able to get some advantages, but that was such a weird Baron.
Yeah, I think it was really critical, though, that Mimic does manage to find his mark on the Keeper's Verdict, just getting Spooks out of that fight and not letting the Smite contest happen.
And they hold the aggro. Balkan was out of the pit, but Syndra's still throwing orbs. The Kog'Maw was still auto-attacking despite not having a tank, and it was the flash back in from Balkan to secure it, so everybody on this team is really on the same page. They have the one goal. It is the call to finish. Mimic gets the knockback, the rest of the team hold the aggro, and they clean up the Baron buff. Sure, they do lose a few kills on the back end, but gold lead is still fairly large. They have the Baron buff, and they're still looking to force the base.
So if you're Order right now, what have you got to be thinking to try and get back into this one? It feels a little bit like it did last game, but the win conditions for Bombers are different.
And the win conditions for Order are certainly different. Like, they have a Morgana to keep the Kai'Sa alive, but in terms of straight damage output, he's just not dealing as much as FBI. Like, you don't have the shields to keep your AD carry up, and you kind of want Bombers to be walking over your buttons. Yes, the base sort of lends, like the choke points at every inhib lends itself to that a little bit, but if you're fighting in those points, if Bombers can get a flank off, if Mimic can come from the side, if Balkan gets the one hit, all of these sort of things make that game plan very difficult, and Order, they do have their back up against the wall, and that's really not where you want to be when the fights you want to take are slowly backing away.
Bombers, they got to be feeling pretty good about how things are going. Last game, you know, the end of it might have given them a little bit of pause because it really required that extra mile to really put it away. But right now, they're knocking on the doors to victory in game number 2, looking to put it to match point.
Spooks is looking for a flank, as was Dream, and now he's actually going on the red buff. Balkan wants it. He knows exactly where he is, and he has found the Urgot.
All right, Urgot did take the red buff, though. He's just going to flash away. Oh, boy. Balkan's still tracking him here. Doesn't follow all the way through, so that's an expensive red buff for Spooks.
Very expensive. Thought he could just kind of get away with it, that Bombers would not be looking at the red buff, but unfortunately Volcan checks and Flash is not the price you want to pay for this one. You can see how Bombers are kind of spreading out over the ball. There we
damage
go.
from the backline, and Mimic comes tagging his way in for Swiffer. Here we go, the Poppy
Big
Copter
knockback.
knocking the Spooks away. And it looks like they're just going to be going for the kills, going for the fight. They've got the stun off onto Tally. He eats an orange. I don't know if it's going to be K, though. Down goes Spooks. And they've only taken Mimic out of this fight. The rest of Bombers looking to close up.
And such a clutch engage from Mimic. He slams Swiffer into the turret, and unlike game number 1, this could be the end first try.
The 29 minutes on the clock. Tally and Jake look to defend here, but it looks like it's going to be all on the Nexus turrets. One's already taken out of this one.
Volcan.
There's the dunk on into the back of the pit, looking for Jake. The damage is there. He's going to get taken out. It's going to be only Tally for a few more seconds, and I think they've got it this time, Bryce. Bombers with the ace onto the base.
And they're just going to be able to close this one out. Nexus will fall, but this was a much cleaner game. Much like game number 1, the early game tracks in their favor. They look towards the bottom side of the map. They snowball it out well, and as I said, it wasn't 3 times a charm, and you have to backdoor the Nexus.
You have to be feeling a lot better about that win.
That was singular Baron. They get into the base, Mimic finds the engage, and they end immediately. In terms of confidence levels, yes, they have the 2-0, but coming out of game 1 did look a bit shaky. Completely opposite now after game number 2.
No, things have definitely turned in favor. The Bombers finding themselves up 2-0 now in a very clean closeout. Shy of 30 minutes. I mean, this is clockwork Bombers.
Yeah.
They went away for a week. We were wondering maybe what would they look like on this patch if anything was different, but they're completely unflappable.
Yeah.
This team is so good. I mean, you look at how what Order's run was, and Bombers in this second game just threw them aside.
Yeah, seem unfazed. And it's also different fashions in both of the games. It was a fairly defensive, like the discipline, the side lane play. We'll pick on side lanes with the Tom Kench. There's similar trends here with the Galio. He can do similar things. It's not quite as free. You don't have as much openness as a Tom Kench does, but that was really all about like Volcan getting that advantage and forcing the team fight. Forcing the fights onto Order, which is what we've seen the rest of the Gauntlet games be. And they've all gone Order's way. Now their backs against the wall. 2-0 up are the Bombers, and they fought Order in Order's style and beat them. This is a
Which
huge
is a big
confidence
statement.
play. Yeah.
I mean, that's massive right there. The fact that you can play up against Order style, which they've looked so darn good at in the past week especially, and in the lead up to the Gauntlet, and just say, hey, you know, we're going to be able to take it to you. Even on some of the comfort picks that Order had already established for themselves. The Urgot coming in, and it
The
honestly,
Morgana.
Spooks had a hard time. Balkan on this Jarvan is everywhere.
Yeah, it's like 2 games in a row where he's been very impactful early and been able to snowball that lead, right? They've given over Order champions, the Zyra Khan, they give them the Morgana, they give them the Urgot. They're not worried about like the individual pieces. They are just getting like comfort for themselves. It's Tommy on the Ryoma, it's Mimic on the Poppy. That is the one tank that he actually has played over the course of his domestic career in the OPL, and he just looks good. That last team fight, that engage from him was super clutch, and if that Mimic is going to show up, like it's a rough time for Order.
Well, 2 games down, and it looks like a double quarter pounder already ordered up by the Bombers. We'll take a quick Macca's break before we send it off to the couch.
We don't believe in labels at Macca's, like dinner or breakfast, so we're getting rid of them. Now you can enjoy dinner or breakfast whenever you want it. McDonald's all-day menu, available 24/7.
I'm a big fan of McDonald's. I'm not a big fan of that throw. That one, I was lost on that one. I got to be honest there.
We have standards in this region. I know people don't think we do, but we have standards.
I'm
God
fairly
damn it.
certain I'm the only one on this whole broadcast that is allowed to screw up their throws. I think that's written into my contract.
I think we haven't seen you do them too successfully yet, so the consistency is important with you though now, Nick. We've got to keep it on brand.
It's part of my charm. Speaking of charm, Bombers, very charming. Much more of a decisive win there.
Yeah, I feel like this is what would have happened game 1 if they hit the damn Nexus, right? No, but like pretty much is very similar style. Like, so I mean, let's start at the beginning, as all good games do start.
Please.
You know, at 1 minute.
It would be
so
weird to know
Spooks
what
does
it was.
red buff straight to bottom gank. No one expects that timing.
No,
like,
not from an
not
Urgot.
on Urgot. So he's able to pick up a first blood. Credit to the Bombers though, they trade, and then Balkan trades up. I
Yeah.
said this when this guy power farms, he power farms. Do you know what path we saw? So buff, camp, scuttle. Every single thing in Spooks' jungle. All of it. All of Spooks' jungle. I mean, we just announced him as rookie of the split. Like, absolutely hard carries that game. I think Bryce hit it on the head, like 5 minute 45. Jarvan ultimate in the bottom lane or something like that. You don't expect that. Like, mid lane had just ticked over. and you're already getting Jarvan ulted,
Yeah.
that's a terrible time. Get me off Summoner's Rift.
That's the thing, right? Like, or to make the proactive play, it actually looks pretty good. And, you know, credit to somehow FBI Rogue pull out these miracles. They're just good enough players to do that here and there. But the fact that everything was taken, and somehow by some miracle, Spooks doesn't spot Balkan, places
That
vision
ship's in the
trying to
night
find
moment,
him.
my
Yeah,
goodness.
barely misses him. Extra farm goes over and then dies top lane as well. So not only is bottom traded, jungle gets an advantage, top lane gets something for it as well, and Balkan picks up the kill. So that bot lane gank, like, massive.
Can we talk about that kill in top river quickly? If you're a jungler at home, I want you to go back. I want you to look at the time that Spooks dies after helping Tally shove out his wave. I would say 7 out of 8 junglers in the OPL would do this, and the exception is probably Balkan at the moment. Exit through the lane. You can't exit to river. You don't have mid lane priority. You definitely don't have top lane priority because you just had to help your top laner shove the damn wave out. Like, if you walk into river, what are you going to do? Fight 3 of them? We saw that didn't work. He just dies. So exit back through your lane. Spooks, one of the cardinal sins of jungling. You hate to see it.
Yeah, and this is actually, like, this carries through a little bit more for me than just that moment, because this actually felt like...
I put him on tilt.
Like, capitulation just gone.
Yeah.
Spooks was just gone from that moment. And, like, you asked, like, 5 minutes, what's, like, big about this game? And my answer was death by jungle.
Yeah.
'Cause that's legitimately what it was. Balkan got a lead, does not relent when he has the lead. But Spooks also seems to have... Like, I don't know if it was nerves or if it was tilt, but there was something that was off in this game. Because he was missing Urgot ults he should hit. He was throwing them at people he shouldn't be throwing them at when he should be holding them. Like, this wasn't the Spooks we saw even in the first game, and definitely not for the whole gauntlet.
And I think, like, the big thing here is, like, you have to take into, like, consideration probably the pressure on Spooks and Swiffer in particular, because this is one of the last cracks they're going to get at it. They're both 25-year-olds. They've won 4 OPL titles themselves. They won Autumn before OPL was a thing. Like, this is a duo that has been around, I think, longer than any duo in the history of League of Legends now. And this would mean so much to them to have another crack at the OPL title. So whilst everyone else on Order is looking at it, their free, like, shot, you know, Jake
Nothing
across
to
from
lose.
Avant and Dream freshly into the league. These two guys are probably the two that are feeling it the most and would want to turn around in Game 3, I think is a very fair statement.
And it is easy to get in your own head in a situation like that. In the meantime, Tommy just gets to sit in mid lane and just do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I mean, he had everything, including even when he goes to a side lane, he's on his blue buff side of the map, you know? So, like, Swiffer, who was playing perfectly fine, just never had priority, and there was nothing he could do. Wasn't even getting blue buffs to get that priority. They were going to Spooks, so denied everything possible. And, you know, credit to Bombers in retrospect here. Like, they played every aspect of the map well with the leads that they had, including lane assignments, which is something you never really speak about too much in League of Legends besides the overarching strategy. But, like, they were at every position at the correct point.
Yeah, and I think, like, the things that I'm impressed by for Bombers are the things that I'm normally impressed by, but they're just doing it a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the first thing is Balkan walks into mid lane, spots 2 control wards.
Yep.
Waves at neutral. Doesn't hit either of them. Waves into Ryoma, makes the wave hit the turret, and then he goes in. Because at that point, he knows at best it is a 1v1 between him and the jungle. He has EQ up and available. He can just scoot out of there. Like, little things like that. Like, that you don't get to praise a team for doing. But, like, no one else waits that 5 or 10 seconds for the wave to hit the turret. But he does it because it keeps him safe 10 out of 10 times. There's 0% chance that he's going to die there.
Right?
It's all the 1%ers. Top lane, he walks up, he drops flag for Kog'Maw so he can start taking turret. He knows that the only play at that stage of the game is on the Kog'Maw. Poppy too tanky, as we said, mid lane priority, 100% in Ryoma's favor. Like, just go stand on top of the Kog, the only champion that Order can kill at that time. Turns the 3v3 in their favor, even through a Gangplank ultimate. They just, like, they are reading the play so incredibly well. And on top of that, I mean, I keep saying it, but they just seem to get, like, that extra, you know, 5-10% out of their champions at the moment because they are playing well. So the things that, you know, they read the play, Order read the play, like, a little bit worse. Then they play the play a little bit better, Order play the play a little bit worse. All of a sudden, like, in League of Legends terms, that's a 3-for-1 team fight or a 4-for-1 team fight. And you make the team look bad because gold, when you're ahead in this game, is so crucial. And time again, they just have the early leads.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Order are going to have to improve to head into the next match. And speaking of improving, a lot of